Good morning, Aldersley. Welcome to today's assembly by Miss Butler on Friday the 5th of June. I hope you are all awake, logged on to Teams and ready to start your lessons today. Before we start today's assembly, I just wanted to take a minute to reflect back on the challenges that Mr. Richardson sent for you yesterday. The first was for the Action for Happiness calendar for Joyful June, and it asks you to show your appreciation for those who are helping others. Lots of us have done that throughout the lockdown with the Thursday clap for carers, but perhaps there are other ways that you've been able to do that too. You may have noticed somebody doing something kind for another person, or maybe that's their job, something that's caring for other people. Have you shown your appreciation for them? Have you said thank you, either on behalf of yourself or somebody else that they have helped? The second challenge was to grow your own. So Mr. Richardson gave you a website that you can visit, and they will send you some free seeds and you can grow something. That could be a flower or even something to eat. So if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, here's the link for you again. Visit that website. Let's see what you can grow over the next few weeks. Some shout outs as well, some excellent work that we've seen this week through Twitter. So huge well done to everybody that's working online in all of their lessons. Don't forget though to tweet at us with some examples of the things that you're doing so that we can recognise you throughout our community. So well done to Hannah F for her hospitality work, to all of Year 8 DT for their exceptional work and their recall retrieval of knowledge as well, to Susanna for her extra French revision, to 7A SP1 Miss Connolly's class for their online quizzes in Spanish. It was great to see so many of you joining in on those, and it was a bit different too, wasn't it? And well done to Harry and Year 8 who have been taking part in the Climate Control Challenge and considering the ways that they can help the planet. And finally, well done to all of our Year 11s who have been taking part this week in their sixth form transition lessons, escape rooms and other events. It's great to be back in touch with you all, and we're looking forward to you rejoining us in September. The theme for today's assembly is enterprise, and this is a word that you might have heard of before, but you may not know exactly what it means. Enterprise is another word for business. And in school, lots of us study business studies in Year 9, 10, 11, 12 or 13. There's lots of you in Year 8 who have selected it as one of your options from September. And there might be some of you in Year 7 who are looking ahead and considering whether it might be a subject for you. But one thing that all enterprises have in common is that they will be started up by an individual. And we call that individual an entrepreneur. Now, an entrepreneur needs to have lots of different skills in order to be successful. They need to be committed to their idea. They need to have excellent problem-solving skills, be creative, hard-working, be motivated and passionate about what they do. And all of these words remind me of our students at Aldersley. We are ambitious, aren't we? We are resilient. We like to challenge ourselves. So there are definitely lots of you who could potentially be entrepreneurs in the future. However, lots of us could have a business idea, but then not do anything about it. An entrepreneur is not somebody who has an idea and then chooses to do nothing with it. An entrepreneur is actually a person who takes that idea and then tries to run that business. They will take risks. They know that it could be a success, but ultimately, it might not be. There are lots of examples of successful entrepreneurs all across the world. I've just picked 3 for you here, and I've picked these 3 on purpose because they are individuals who did not necessarily find it easy to start their own business. They had to be hardworking, resilient, keep going, have self-motivation. For example, the first lady here, Sophia Amoruso, she suffers from ADHD, and because of that, she found school quite difficult. However, Despite her experiences, she decided that she was going to take her interest in vintage clothing and turn that into a small business. She took a risk of investing in some clothing that she would sell then on eBay. And eventually, she sold that business to Boohoo, who you'll all have heard of, for $20 million. So despite her difficulties, she was able to take that idea, take that risk of investing a little bit of her own money, and eventually it paid off. Second person is Jay-Z, who lots of you will have heard of too. He also had to use a small amount of his own money to record his very early songs, and nobody was interested. He had to be resilient. He was selling those songs from his car, and from that he was able to earn a record deal. And now, as we know, he also owns his own clothing brands, his own property, and a sports management company. The last person I've chosen here is Oprah Winfrey, who I'm sure you'll have heard of too. She was actually fired very early in her career. So she was a newsreader, and she was told that she wasn't good enough for it. She didn't have the right look. But she persevered and she proved that characterisation wrong. She actually went on to host and produce her own talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show. And she is now the CEO of her own company, as well as having her own magazine and TV network. So all of these entrepreneurs probably have one thing in common that you might associate with running your own business, and that's earning lots of money. That's not the only part of being an entrepreneur, though. That's not the only reason why somebody might choose to start their own enterprise. If you think of these three people, they followed their passions, they followed their belief in themselves. But these individuals also had knockbacks, didn't they? They didn't find it easy. They persevered, and from that were able to find success. It's also important to consider, though, that most entrepreneurs are people that you will never have heard of. They are the business owners of small businesses within your local area, for example, hairdressers, newsagents, takeaway shops, small bakery businesses, people who make their own crafts and sell them online. They are all entrepreneurs. But these are also the businesses that are the hardest to make successful. And in fact, 20% of small enterprises will fail in their first year, 30% of them in their second year, and half of them after 5 years, which just shows us how difficult it is to really be a successful entrepreneur like those three that we've just talked about. It is a risk. And one of the key skills of an entrepreneur is to decide which risks are worth taking. And we call that a calculated risk. So a calculated risk is one that we look at the probability of whether it will be successful if we take it or not. The way to consider this then as an idea is with a card game. So you may have played before a game of higher or lower with cards. So if I showed you this card here, 4 of hearts, and I asked you higher or lower, what would you say? I bet most of you would have gone higher, and you would have been right, because the probability tells us that there are more cards above a 4 than there are below a 4 in a deck of cards. So if you go higher, you've got more chance of being successful. What about now if I asked you if the next card would be higher or lower? A 10. Obvious, isn't it? Because a king was at the very top end of that pack. What about now? I bet lots of you went lower. Actually, the card was a jack and it was higher. So we can try and take a calculated risk based on the probability of what might happen. But as an entrepreneur, we never truly know. Think about coronavirus at the moment and how many small businesses will have been seriously affected. No one could see what's happened coming. What about now? Higher or lower? Lower? Now? Higher? Next card? Higher again? And the final card? Lower. So as we've just seen, With calculated risk, we can try and think through the probability of what might work with our enterprise idea or what might not work, what might help us to be successful or what might not. But to make those risks smaller and to increase the probability of us being able to make that enterprise a success, there are different things that we can do. You can carry out some research, you can speak to those people who might be your customers and find out what they think about your idea so that you can try and attract them when you do start your business. You can research any competitors who do something similar to your business idea and decide how you can stand out and be different compared to them so that customers will use you. You can try and seek some advice from some existing small business owners and entrepreneurs and learn from their experiences and take their advice. Because if we take the advice of people who've been through it themselves, we can learn and perhaps have more of a chance of our business surviving those first difficult years. There are also lots of sources of advice out there for young entrepreneurs, and I've got some websites on the next slide that you can use to help you with that. You can even apply for a small grant through the Prince's Trust, and that is a small amount of money that you can then use to help start up your business idea. Now that can help to minimise risk, can't it? Rather than maybe investing some of your own pocket money into an idea that might not work. You can even write out your idea as a business plan, and there's lots of templates online to help you think your idea through in detail and decide, using calculated risk, is it worthwhile or not? And you can also remember, speak to a business studies teacher, whatever year group you're in, whether you study business studies or not, and get their advice and ask what they think. For example, Mrs. Keeler, Mr. Rye, Mr. Mahat, or Miss Butler will all be willing to give you some feedback on any ideas that you might have. So here you can see some useful websites for people of your age that might help you to learn a little bit more about being an entrepreneur, and some general advice as well if it's something that you wish to pursue now or when you are older. For example, the Peter Jones Foundation, lots of advice for both primary and secondary age students about enterprise. There's the Prince's Trust as well, who give lots of support, advice and financial help to young people who are starting their own business. There is also something called the Tenor Challenge, which I'm going to tell you about as one of our challenges for today. For today's challenges then, first of all, what I want you to do is research an entrepreneur of your choice. You could even look at one of the three that we talked about today, or another that you've heard of, or if you want to find out about somebody completely different, then use the internet and search and see who you can find out about and what you can find out about their journey. What is it that makes them so successful in your opinion? Has it been their creativity, their problem solving, their passion or determination? Find out and then let me know. You can see my Twitter address at the bottom, and the schools, tweet us with whatever it is that you find out. Secondly, you might want to test your enterprise skills and see how good of an entrepreneur you are. So with a parent or carer, if you go to the website that you can see there, you can, with your parent or carer's permission, sign up for what's called the Tenor Challenge. And the idea of that is that you'll be given £10 to try and turn into more money through a business idea of your choice. Finally, the Action for Happiness Joyful June calendar for Friday the 5th of June is to smile and be friendly even when you're social distancing. So that's something to remember today and over the weekend when you are going for your daily exercise or you're in a queue for a shop and you see other people. Remember to look up, smile and be friendly. Please remember over the weekend that the signing off messages on all of your teams will have the phone numbers and website addresses of various different organisations that can support you if you need any help or somebody to talk to. Remember that we are all online during the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. during the week, and these are the email addresses that you should get in touch with. So please, if there's anything worrying you, make sure that you get in touch with one of us during the school day, or if it's outside of those hours or the weekends, have a look at your teams for the websites and phone numbers to help you. That's that's it for today. Have a lovely day, Team Aldersley. Can't wait to see what we are capable of achieving today in all of our lessons. Don't forget to tweet me with your work and your challenges that you've completed. I would love to see what you have been able to do today. Have a fantastic day and an even better weekend.